Exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
Wow, Tim, it's awful hot where I am here. Wow, look at all these demons. They're closing in on me. And oh my God, I never believed it in him. But that looks like Satan over there putting cold on the fire. I've got to get out of here. This must really be hell, just like some of our listeners claim.
Tim, by the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes.
Oh, wow. Poetic Satan. All right. Tim, can you help me here? Tim,
Well, I'll do my best.
Well,
I'm not quite sure what I can do.
Well, send me a ladder down here.
Well, how about a coin? I think aren't you supposed to pay the boatman on the river Styx?
Oh yeah, I guess so. I don't have any change. I got a lot of pennies. I don't know how far that'll get me. Pennies. I know they're pennies from heaven. That'll do it.
Yeah,
Yes, Satan be gone. Yay.
I thought you spent all those in Atlantic City last week.
Well, they don't. The penny machines don't take pennies.
Oh,
You can't use. I don't know about Las Vegas. We'll have to find out from our producer Tina there at KCOR Radio. But here in Atlantic City, they don't take any coins. They don't take any cash. Well, maybe you can shove a $20 bill into the machine, but they certainly don't take any coins. And there are no handles on the machines anymore. You just set. I watch from a distance because I don't gamble anyway. People just put the money in and they pump the. They put in 7 or 10 quarters. Now you can play up to 50 lines or something like that. I like the one when it's just one line. 7, 7, 7. It's not complicated. I either win or I lose, right? How do you figure all this stuff? I can never figure it out. To me, it's kind of dull and it's kind of boring. And I'm sure the Chamber of Commerce will not be hiring me, but that's
right. Yeah.
Quite all right.
The official spokesperson.
So, are you getting ready for the holiday?
Oh yes. Well, my daughter, she's all excited. She can't wait for the holidays to get here. She can't wait for school to let out for the holiday break. That's the main.
Boy. Yet I put up my Christmas tree today on the tiki bar. I took it out of the closet. Very dusty, and there's a tinsel on it left over from last year, and there are lights on the tree, but there's no place to plug it in, because if you saw my place, like every modern place today, when the building was built in 1903, what did they have for electricity? I mean, one lamp or something like that. The radio hadn't even been invented yet, heaven forbid, and so there's no place to plug it in. It's all set up with computers and modems, and the wire from the Christmas tree is about a foot long or something. But my eyes glisten, and that's all I need.
That's right. That's right. Well,
and if somebody wants to send me some poppy seed cake, I love poppy seed cake. So
there you go.
Just wrap it up good and put it in the mail priority before it's too late. Anyway, enough of this. Merriment and chatter about the holidays, because we have two guests forthcoming on the show, and we're going to talk tonight about demons and ghosts and exorcisms and things that you'd like to bump into in the night.
No, yeah, I know that's okay. Well, but Tim, I mean, this is the perfect time of year because ghost stories around Christmas. Wow. Yeah. That's been a favorite pastime for hundreds of years. So I mean, look at a Christmas carol and all that.
We missed a Krampus, or maybe we didn't miss him. That was on December 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get a cold in your stocking, or did Donald Trump put it there, or was it Krampus? You don't know.
Oh well, around here in the town that I live in, I mean, it's an old German heritage, and so they do celebrate. Was it Saint Nicholas night or something like that? And so Krampus comes and steals your children. If they've been bad, he's got like a big gunny sack that'll shove them down into him. And,
I was listening to Darkness Radio. Our friend Dave Schrader, is the host, and he had someone the other night talking about Krampus, but there are even worse Christmas entities than Krampus. There's one that will take your children behind the woodshed and use a belt on them or a switch, and then he turns them over to Krampus. I don't know. So you're lucky. You're lucky if you just get to see Krampus. I don't know. Hey, let's introduce our guests, and then we'll ask them if they have any Christmas stories.
Oh, well, it'd be my pleasure. Well, tonight we've got two great guests. We've got the Reverend SHAWN Whittington, who is with us tonight right here in the studios of KCOR. And did I put an extra R in there? KCOR Digital Radio. There you go. Now, Reverend SHAWN is a devout Catholic and an ordained spiritual warfare minister. As well, he is the host of the popular webcast Vegas Supernatural right here on this network. Now, along with his wife Sharon, who is very strong in her Lutheran faith and a sensitive intuitive, the husband and wife Ghostbusting team have over 40 years combined experience. Now, the team is fully equipped to perform thorough paranormal investigations if needed, and you can find out more about them at their website, ghostbegone.biz, and you can find that URL on our website right here at KCOR. And also with us tonight is Paul Dale Roberts, a good friend of both of ours. Now, Paul is a freelance writer and has written travel articles, comic book reviews, paranormal stories on ghosts and UFOs. His real job is an office manager for a government agency, and he enjoys traveling the world and has been into over 40 countries and territories.
No
from
way. Really? Wow.
Moscow, Rio de Janeiro. I love Rio.
Whoa.
He's also the author of the popular HPI Chronicles Volumes 1 through 5. So, Paul, Reverend SHAWN, thank you very much for being with us tonight on Exploring the Bizarre.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, 40 countries. I am impressed. I wish I were in your shoes if they were big enough. Because I'm always. They have to be big. They have to be big enough because I'm always clowning around. Okay.
Well, thank you, Tim.
You gotta laugh harder than that. Okay. Hey, so we got any Christmas stories out there?
Well, how about maybe not a Christmas story, but how about a Taco Bell UFO?
A Taco Bell UFO. All right. Well, we can start there.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Well, I put my cell phone number out there, so I call it the paranormal hotline, and I get a lot of phone calls. And one of the craziest stories that I heard is this guy. His name's Mr. Reyes. That's what I'll call him. And he says that they were in the town of Whittington, which is near. I guess that's near. Bystrom, I'm sorry. That's near Modesto. And they were hungry. They're ready to take
that would
trip.
Be California? That would be California?
Yeah, California. Yeah. And they spied a Taco Bell. They were hungry. And before they went on this trip, they were headed for Los Angeles. And they went into this Taco Bell, and they thought it was really unusual because the cashier's eyes seemed dark and elongated. And the words on the display menu became very blurry for them. And the windows became solid white. Uh-huh. And this is what he's relating to me. Okay, Everything in the room became white. Mr. Reyes remembers seeing his wife and two daughters laying on a white solid table, and the cashiers now look like aliens standing over his family members.
They look like demons?
And
Is that what you said?
No, like aliens.
Aliens. Okay.
Yeah, aliens like the Greys.
Yeah.
And Mr. Reyes remembers extreme pain in the nasal cavity area and screamed for help. And a taller alien creature touched his forehead, and he mentally received the message that everything will be all right.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Reyes and his family found themselves back in their vehicle, and they were parked on the side of the freeway, Highway 99. And this is what he's claiming. He's swearing up and down on it. And Mr. Reyes may see a hypnotist, he says, to find out what the complete experience was all about. After the incident, Mr. Reyes said that he had a small seizure, and he never had a seizure before.
Well,
and
now let me. Okay, yeah, go ahead. But I have something to add here. Go, finish on up. Okay.
So basically, what it's coming down to is this Taco Bell actually became a UFO, and he was enticed to go in there thinking it's a Taco Bell, and then everything changed. Everything became white. The menu became blurry. The cashiers turned.
I bet the food. I bet the food was better. Oh no free Taco Bell for us. No way.
No. So I just thought that was really, really unusual because
let me tell you a story. There is an incident that we published in one of our books, Tim, if you recall, that was taken from the April Bulletin. There was a family. This might be an urban legend, but this is a piece that was published in the rather prestigious and straightforward April Bulletin many, many years ago. A family was driving through the mountains in Oregon, and they were running short on gas, and they saw a fast food restaurant. So they stopped in, and it was shaped like somewhat like a flying saucer, kind of like now I don't think maybe the first Star Wars had come out, but when they got inside, the waitresses and it was weird, it was strange, and there were some robots working the fast food counter and all of that. It was just pretty much the way you described that incident there. Now, when they left the restaurant, they found out that they had not spent any money. Apparently, the counter people refused to take the earthly coin that they were offered, and the car kind of glided out of the parking lot and back onto the road. So they really didn't. They were able to get home, and then they ran out of gas. So that was fine. Now, they liked the food so much that a couple of weeks later, they decided to take a drive to find this fast food restaurant, which they found to be rather unusual. And in addition, it was kind of in a strange place up in the mountains. I mean, they didn't expect to see a fast food restaurant there. So they drove back to the area where the fast food restaurant was, but there was no fast food restaurant. So they did come along, a construction team working on the highway, and they stopped and they said, can you tell us where the fast food restaurant is that's shaped like a spaceship? And the people, working on the construction site looked at him like they were total idiots and said, there isn't a fast food restaurant here. There's a diner like 30 miles down the road is the nearest place to eat. So, lady, you must have been hallucinating. And maybe they were hallucinating, but that's the second story. And as Tim can tell you, food does seem to play a definite part in the paranormal. We've had John... what's his name? Kuchin?
Kuchin, yes.
Yeah, Kuchin on, who's written just about this, the smells and food and things associated with the UFOs and Bigfoot and other paranormal experiences. So we're not exactly in new territory here. Maybe there are other listeners out there who have had similar experiences. And now that you've got me hungry.
That is absolutely amazing, because I didn't know there was other stories like that out there. And when he told me that story, it just kind of blew me away. But then I was thinking logically, yeah, they would probably set something up, and if they can mentally read your mind, they said, "Oh, okay, this family loves Taco Bell, so let's make our spaceship look like a Taco Bell." You know, and the town of Bystrom is very, very small.
Yes.
And I think there's only a gas station there. There's not even any fast food restaurants in that area. So that was just really, and I just thought it was, he didn't really want to be identified, because he didn't want to be a laughing stock, he said, you know, to his co-workers and everybody else.
Well, if he's listening to this program, let him know that he is not alone, and that he's welcome to come on and tell his story and identify himself. And there will be a free Taco Bell for him if he does so.
That would be great.
There you go.
And I got a couple other UFO stories, and one has to deal with my wife, Deanna Jackson Stinson, and well, when I first met her, she had a lot of paranormal experiences, and so she told me what some of her paranormal experiences, and one of them was being abducted as a child. Okay, well, that's not the crazy thing, but when I married her, and the things that started happening, like I took her on an investigation in Grass Valley, where by Beale Air Force Base, a lot of UFOs are seen. Well, she's very mystical, and she had these crystal skulls, 2 of them. And she did like a little prayer over them. And she says, okay, if you're a UFO, power up. She was about 200 yards from me, and this thing powered up. It became brighter, and then it was a smaller light after that. And everybody was screaming where she was at. You know, wow, you know, it gave her a sign, and by powering up. Okay, well, that was the first thing. Then the second thing was we were headed for Bodega Bay, and we saw this thing that looked almost like a little rocket that had flame at the very end of it. And it was like flying sideways. You know, what the heck is that? You know, and she gets this impulse to sometimes look in a different area of the sky. And she pointed it out to me. Okay, that was one thing. That could be almost anything. It could be something military, whatever. Okay, so let's forget about that one. And then we, in Sacramento, she goes, Paul, look to your right side. She goes, there's a golden cube in the sky. I go, get out of here. And I'm paying attention. I'm on the freeway, and I'm trying to pay attention to the road. She goes, no, there's a cube in the sky. And when I looked at it, it looked like a black cube. And I go, what the heck is that? And she goes, I don't know. She goes, but I had this impulse to look on my right side, and there it was in the sky. And it only lasted for a couple seconds, and it disappeared. Okay, moving on. And while we're traveling through Copperopolis, California, she gets this impulse to take a picture of the sky. She goes, I have to take a picture right here. Slow down, slow down. So she takes a picture, and there's a portal that looks like a black portal in the sky. It's like, what the heck is that? So that was the other incident. And then she blew me away just recently, right here in Elk Grove. We're driving along. She goes, pull into this parking lot. And I pull into the parking lot. I go, why? It was an empty parking lot. She goes, I have to take a picture of the moon. She goes, there's something by the moon. And with the naked eye, I don't see anything. She snaps a photo, and there's 3 discs in V formation. And that picture right now is in the August issue of 14 magazine. And I sent it over to MUFON, and they had no explanation for it.
What issue of 14 times?
The November issue. The November issue. It's right now in Barnes and Nobles.
Oh, good. I have the one with the last issue. I think has the motorcycle on the cover. Is that the one? Brown cover.
I'm not sure.
I'll look. I have it. I have it in the little boys' room. I have all my literature.
And I'll actually send you the link. I actually videotaped the magazine. So if you send me an email and I'll send you the link.
Well, no, I get all the issues. So that's one of the few.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the few magazines that you can buy on the newsstand. There really isn't anything. Yeah.
The November issue has witch bottles on the cover.
Well, I haven't got that one.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that one. Yeah,
I'm holding it in my hand right now.
Oh, good. Okay. Now look in the middle, and you're going to see like a picture of some houses, and you'll see 3 discs in the sky, and they're in V formation.
Yeah, hovering above the moon. Yeah, that's a great picture.
Yeah, well, now, Paul, didn't we publish photos of some UFOs that you took? Was it you that took them near Mount Shasta?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes.
So you're a UFO repeater.
Yeah, but the only thing is, I'm not the one that attracts the UFOs.
Yes.
The one in Mount Shasta was Sylvia Brown's secretary, and she said she's psychic. And she said, Paul, snap a photo of me because you're going to be surprised. There'll be something behind me. I snapped a photo of her, and right behind her is that UFO. And it was like a disc, and it was sideways or whatever.
Well, Mount Shasta, Mount Shasta is like one of the most mysterious places you can possibly visit. We have a couple of books actually on Mount Shasta. We get a lot of mail from people who go there. I wouldn't say they're skeptical, but they go there, either on a vacation or to go hiking, and all of a sudden they're caught in the middle of some mystical experience, right, Tim?
That's right. Well, unfortunately, we have a mystical experience coming up, a word from our sponsor. So when we come back, we'll continue our conversation. We'll bring Reverend Shawn up next on Exploring the Bizarre.
Now back to Exploring the Bizarre with 2 of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal. Your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
And welcome back to Exploring the Bizarre. And I just want to thank all of our listeners out there who are spending their time with us tonight. Really appreciate it. Friends like Veronica. Thanks for listening, Veronica. And so now we're going to bring in Reverend Shawn. And thanks, Shawn, for being with us tonight. I know you have a busy schedule, and we appreciate that you took your time to be with us tonight.
No, I'm the one that wants to thank you. Let me start by saying, breaking news, this just in, the Rev has officially got his Exploring the Bizarre cherry broken, and I am now officially bizarre. First time on ETB. I'm excited.
That's right.
I have never heard it quite explained in that way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
So
we'll have to use that as a quote.
Seriously, though, on a serious note,
is that a maraschino cherry?
I'm gonna let it go. At this point, I'm just gonna let it go.
No, I just wanted to say that I promise it will be gentle for the rest of the night.
But I do, on a serious note, I want to tell you guys, we haven't spoke to one another since the both of you were on my show, and Mr. Roberts, it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. I've heard nothing but great things.
It's a pleasure to meet you too.
You got it. I've heard nothing but great things about you, brother, and I just want you all to know, seriously, I love you all, and I pray that the Holy Spirit comes into all of your lives this Christmas season, and for all my Jewish friends out there, a very happy Hanukkah. And please, everybody, don't forget what this time of the season really means. And don't forget that Satan doesn't take vacations. So this time of year, he's more active than ever. And just really, if you're in this field, the same field I'm in, and you gentlemen too, you have to really keep eyes in the back of your head and your head on a swivel when it comes to this time of the year, because we're all targets.
Is that because we get our big credit card bills? Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Does Satan make us go out and buy that all those lavish new gifts that Tim is going to send me?
He could. Yep. But thank you guys.
Well,
I'm really
the thing that I wanted to know, Sean. Okay, now in your bio it says that you're an ordained spiritual warfare minister.
Okay.
Now, how do you get that? How do you get that title? Now, I know that regular listeners to your show probably already know this, but tell us about yourself. I mean, what got you started in this? I mean, did you have weird things happen to you when you were a kid, or what?
I'm going to give you the abridged version because the story would take the rest of the show, and I don't want to be rude to Mr. Roberts or either of the Tims.
No.
I want to give everybody
let Satan do that for you, right?
I was ordained in my mother's womb when I was created to do this, and I got the speech from my mother, that being the case when I was around 10 years old. And so been a ghost buster most of my life, but only became ordained shortly after I fell in love with my wife, and we got married and became a team. Oddly enough, it wasn't until shortly after that, and she's a near-death experience survivor twice over, 3 or 4 times if you count surviving an extreme demonic attack, which left her with 3 very rare forms of cancer, which we're still battling. But I didn't go on the path to become ordained until we ran into our first demonic case, which was a few years back. So how that happens was I was reached out to by my mentor at the time. She went on to become my mentor, Deacon Katie McDonald, first woman exorcist to be ordained deacon in the Catholic Church since 1000 AD. And her mentor and good friend, Dr. Reverend Bill Jordan, they at the time had founded the American Association of Exorcists and Agape Christian University. And A&E was going to do a television show, a reality paranormal television show about Katie called American Exorcist, Katie McDonald. And I was on her team at the time, so I was going to be a part of that whole thing. Long story short, the powers beyond our control, really the attacks became, on most of the team members, became just relentless and ultimately resulted in us not doing the show. But that got me on the path to becoming ordained through those 2 organizations. And I was honored last year with a no expiration date, lifelong ordination to advanced practiced ordained exorcism deliverance minister. And so I'm very proud of that. And I just continue on. Agape Team USA is still together, and we still work cases. And my wife and I are still ghostbegone.biz, the ministry, and we still work cases. And
well, let's get down to the brass tacks here, Sean. Are you saying that all this phenomena is of the devil, is demonic?
No, not at all. But it seems to be, in my case, ever since I got on this path, that's the only cases that come across my desk. So I seem to be working a lot of those cases, and they're always on a rise this time of year. And I refer a lot of just the regular old Uncle Tom and Aunt Betty ghosts that are hanging around the home wanting to watch over the family and watch over the home and not cross over. I do refer a lot of those cases over to other teams here locally.
Yeah.
Because I'm just so I'm in over my head, actually, to be honest with you. I'm doing more counseling now than anything because I just physically cannot get out there and work every case. But
well, why don't you tell us about the most how do I phrase it, demonic incident that you were ever involved in, the one that maybe Satan came closest to winning out?
Well, I would have to definitely at one put the case we worked where the entity we were battling at my client's home followed my wife and I home. And it took residence up in our house for about 6-8 weeks. And it was a battle to finally get it to move on its way. But I took about a year break from the ministry work because the attack on us and it staying in our home resulted in my wife becoming very ill. And so I put everything on the back burner and spent 2 years easy away from the ministry work, just trying to help my wife to keep her from succumbing to this. And like I said, we're still on that battle, but that was a terrible time, this thing living in our home with us. And then number 2, I would have to say the case I worked where I was actually violently attacked myself, that led to me taking another several month break from the field, and I was actually going to throw my hat in and call it quits at the time. But then the very next case after that, I had a vision of the Holy Spirit at that case, and then the very next case after that was an exorcism case, and during the exorcism, I actually had a vision of Jesus Christ on the cross, which was life-changing. And so I jumped back into the arena, and I'm going strong as ever, and I know this was my calling. I always knew it was my calling, because all my life my mother told me I would do something wonderful for Christ one day, but she didn't specify what that would be. And so I realize now that that's what that was all about, and what I'm doing right now and where I'm at right now is exactly where I'm supposed to be.
So now, what's the difference? I see, or have seen a lot of these, like ghost hunters and ghostbusters, and people like that. They'll go into, say like a house where somebody's been complaining about, say like poltergeist phenomena, and they'll be in the house for like 5 minutes and just immediately declare, oh yeah, you've got demons running around here, and scare the death out of everybody. Yeah. But okay, so what's the difference between like you said before, just a house that seems to have just kind of more of a common, and it's kind of funny to say this, common everyday haunting or poltergeist activity, or a place that really has something actually sinister going on?
Well, the difference is you can't believe anything you see on TV. I used to give tours also, paranormal tours of a cemetery and a haunted home adjacent to the property. And so many times people would come on the tour and expect to see a young girl strapped to a bed, vomiting up green slime all over the place and her head spinning around.
She's here right now.
But it just doesn't happen that way. The demonic attack is very subtle, and it can come on very subtly. And it could be years before the family realizes that the infestation and the oppression is as bad as it is, and God forbid someone is possessed or worse than that, completely gone over demonic integration, and they're not even there anymore. The vessel has been completely taken over by the entity. Then you just have, like I said, mom or pop ghosts that just loved life so much and loved their family so much, and loved their home so much they don't want to move on. They want to watch over things.
No, I hate to be cynical here, but I am very cynical when it comes to Satan. To be honest with you,
that's
Sean.
Okay, and that's what I love about you.
Why would Satan want to bother with you, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm sure he's got much more important things to do, like hanging out in the Oval Office and maybe going sitting on the hopefully sitting on the head of a missile over there in North Korea or something. Why would he want to attack just average folk who ain't done him any harm?
Well, let's address exactly him for a second. Satan is a psychopathic murderer who sat on the throne next to his creator.
But you're. I've always said that you get one side of the story. I've had a few friends in my life who were Luciferians,
okay.
Right? And people equate that to being Satanists, and it isn't really. I mean, we hear one side of the story, which is what the Bible tells you. How do we know? It's like listening to MSNBC and listening to Fox News. You got two totally conflicting stories there. I mean, how can you say? Are you saying that everything that happens in the world we can blame on Satan? I mean, if a guy breaks into your house and robs you and injures your wife or your family member or holds up the local deli, is it because Satan is standing behind him with a pitchfork?
No, absolutely not. But he is at the root of all evil. And so, yes, in a sense, he does oversee all evil, and it does stem. It's seeded with him and then branches out and mainly stems from him and his fallen angels and his legion. And so I have to say most evil is overseen by him. But it's been my experience that most people that are coming to me needing help, they've done something to make the demons that are infesting their home feel like they have been invited and have permission to be there. And that makes a lot of people upset when I confront them with that. And sometimes it takes days, weeks of talking and investigating and going through a lot of situations with them before they realize, oh yeah, we did do that on that one day. And then I remember things started to get ugly after that. Something they did invited these things in and made them feel they have permission to be there. And so to turn that completely around is a very hard thing to do. It's not a quick fix, and people get upset at me all the time. You can't just come in here and bless my home and make them go away. It doesn't work that way. And I've had people from every walk and every religious belief system come to me for help at one time or another, including atheists that didn't believe these things exist until they're living the horror. And so it's tough. I have to cut a lot of people loose that I know it's like that movie where the gentleman says, help me, help you. If they have to be willing to help me help them and do what I need from them to turn the situation around. But it's lots of times I jump in the raging rapids with them, and they don't want me to just grab a hold of them and swim to safety. They want to flail and grab a hold of me and take me down under with them. And I have to, at times, cut people loose, which is the heartbreaking part of what I do.
Okay, well, can you give us an example maybe of a case that you have worked on where people have inadvertently, created this kind of situation in their house?
Well, a lot of people are going to find this extremely odd, but most of my clients are Ghostbusters and ghost hunters. Mm-hmm. They are in the wrong place at the wrong time and not properly trained. And I've had cases come across my desk where they've played occult games to try to conjure something up so they have something to investigate and something to battle. Or the Ouija board. I'm not a big fan of the Ouija board. I have close friends that are Ouija board fanatics, but they're intelligent people, and they know the history behind the Ouija board, and they know how to properly use them as a tool, and that's their belief system and how they use it, and I don't judge anybody. But I know a lot of people that have misused that and invited the wrong things into their homes and into their lives. And once they get in...
But, on the other hand, millions of people have used the Ouija board, and it hasn't done anything. And I've had a couple of occasions where I've used the Ouija board, and I actually got some accurate information. And I don't think that Satan or any of his demons were sitting there, moving the planchette across the board. It just doesn't happen that way. The occult, just like UFOs, it's good, and it's whatever you interpret it to be. And I do believe when you talk about all this negativity, you invite negativity in. It's like a demon or Dracula, at your window or your door. If he asks to come into your house or you talk about it all the time, that's what you tend to get.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's why I try not to, even in our program. I mean, we've talked about some things that are negative. We try to take a positive approach to all of this. Now, we had just published a book by Reverend Barry Downing on UFOs in the Bible, and he sees a lot of things that took place in the Old and New Testament. Extraterrestrials are angelic. He doesn't see anything really demonic about UFOs. I mean, are you on that side of the fence as well, that UFOs are piloted by negative forces?
I think some are. Let me start by saying I'm not a big UFO guy. I do believe in other life forms out there that are visiting Earth, but I don't believe it all is negative. But I do believe some of it is.
There is a movie that's going to be playing in the theaters, I think in 500 theaters. Is it maybe in a couple of weeks? That is being sponsored by some evangelical group. And I guess they have some money to rent 500 theaters. It's called Forewalling. And, I heard an interview that the fellow did the other day, and, he sees all of this. Well, that seems to be most of the Christian approach to this. If any of this exists at all, it has to be Satan. And I don't know. I mean, some of it might be satanic. We've done a couple of books, Round Trip to Hell in a Flying Saucer and Evil Empire, the ETs and Ultra-Terrestrials. I mean, there is without a doubt some negativity in this, but it's also the way you interpret it. I mean, there are people who have experiences and they are brought some great cosmic wisdom, and some people, even claim to have spiritual experiences, and of course, even gone to heaven and return. I mean, do you think that near-death experiences are they what they purport to be?
Talking to my wife, I would have to say yes. I know that she doesn't remember having the sensitivity to spirit that she had before having her near-death experience. And
now, what does that mean exactly? Sensitivity to spirit.
Well, she's like, I call her my human dowsing rods. I can't really work a case without her, because she can walk into a place and look me in the eyes and say, we can hang out for a little bit, honey, if you want, but it's very quiet. There's not going to be much going on tonight. She's not saying that there's nothing there, but it's not going to be a very productive evening. And then we can walk in places and she can just give me the look and say, I feel like I'm walking in soup.
But you don't think that they're showing their negativity because you're looking at this in a negative way?
I think...
Isn't it like... if there are forces out there that'll say, hey, let's go and battle this guy, it'll give us something to do. Whereas if I went into a room, I wouldn't have the same experiences. And we've had our friend Paul Eno on many times, who says that you can do, as far as exorcism goes, you can do just as much, with reading jokes out of a book as you can out of the Bible. In fact, the more you try to confront the so-called demon or Satan, the more they want to strike back at you.
I agree 100%. I think that's why I don't believe in religious provocation, because I know that just my wife and I showing up at cases, if it's truly a demonic, if there is truly a demonic presence there, that us just being there is provocation enough. And that's just part of it. My discernment is that I can see and feel them.
Yes.
So
what does a demon look like?
In the true form, I don't know. I can tell you how they've appeared to me. They've appeared to me as solid three-dimensional, solid black figures. They've appeared to me as black or gray tornadoes in a room, small tornadoes. They've appeared to me as family members of clients that I'm there at their home working the case, and I'll walk into a room and there's a family member there. Then I realize, no, the whole family is on the other side of the home, and then have that doppelganger apparition turn into, one time, what I can only best describe as a very small feral cat pig-like creature that ran.
Hey, that's my pet.
Hey, can I interject? Can I say something, Reverend?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, great. Okay. I get a lot of demon cases, too. And a lot of the cases, the occupants tell me that either the demon looks beautiful, like a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, or it takes an animal shape, or it is shadowy, a black mass. A lot of them say a black mass. And a lot of times, too, I get clients who ask me, and they say, where do these demons come from? You know, where is hell and all this other stuff? And I tell them that demons could either be extraterrestrial or interdimensional, or both.
All right, Paul, I'm going to have to interrupt you here.
They could be behind the voice of the announcer that's coming on.
That's right. We'll be right back after this break, so please stay tuned for more.
Exploring the bizarre. Your e-ticket ride into the world of the paranormal. Strap yourself in as we traverse the universe, exploring the unexplained. UFOs, ghosts, lost worlds, cryptozoology, as well as other dimensions. It's time to take back the night. Now, your electrifying hosts of Exploring the Bizarre, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
All right, here we are back again, second hour of Exploring the Bizarre. And I know that, Paul, we want to talk about, during the break you were talking about orbs and taking pictures of orbs. Now, I know that's kind of a controversial subject because a lot of people think that, especially now that everybody's using digital cameras, that orbs are basically just an artifact of dust and insects with digital cameras. But you've had some different experiences?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, orbs could be almost anything. It could be skin flakes. It could be dust. It could be water. It could, dewdrops, whatever, or light refractions. But what I've done is I asked, let me tell you about one case. Okay, we had this case, and the entity was named Emily. And Emily was known to drain energy from the occupants. And so one of my investigators, he goes, I have to sit down on the couch. He goes, my energy is just gone. He goes, I think Emily is draining my energy. And I go, And this is when I first started it. I said, okay, Emily. And I had two other investigators with cameras. And I said, we're going to snap a photo after I talk to Emily. I said, Emily, if you're listening to me, I want you to kiss so-so on the lips. So we snap a photo with 3 cameras, and all 3 cameras showed an orb on his mouth.
Mm.
I said, what the heck? I mean, it just blew me away. And I said, this shows intelligent movement. I said, we got to try it again. I said, Emily, if you're listening to me, appear by his head. We snap a photo, and sure enough, there's this orb right next to his head. And we go, okay, Emily, if you're listening to me again, okay, I want you to sit on his lap. We snap a photo, 3 photos, and there's an orb hovering over his lap. That showed intelligent movement. So what I do now is when I go on investigations, I look for intelligent movement. So if someone says, oh, Paul, I got a picture of an orb. Well, whoopee-whoopee-do. Okay, now show me that it has intelligent movement. Place your hand up against the wall and tell that entity to appear by your hand. And sometimes, sure enough, the orb is right next to the person's hand. And I have like several pictures of where we have the orb next to the hand or wherever we tell it to be at. So we always look for intelligent movement, and something like that we deem as paranormal.
Hmm. Oh, I'm interested in. You were talking about that the person involved felt like that the entity Emily was draining energy from him. Do you think that that he was subconsciously allowing this to happen? That there was some kind of almost like a, like not symbiosis, but almost like a parasitical type situation going on. But he was actually allowing it to happen, but not, realizing it consciously.
Right. I believe like he was our weak link. So it's like of the chain fence. It's like he was the opening in that fence, and she got through it, and she started attacking him because he had some issues going on at home, so he was already in a bummer mood. So she probably fed into that and started draining his energy.
Well, I've heard people, comment before that people like that, their aura is broken, and there are like weak points that they have that allow these entities to attach themselves, become like an obsessive part of them, or like you said, drain their energy.
Right, and one of the things I like bringing my wife to, like when I bring her to an investigation, sometimes her psychic abilities is at all-time high. Sometimes it's not. And she'll just look at me and she goes, well, Paul, my sinuses are bothering me, and I'm just not picking up on anything. It just happens here and there, not all the time. And what I really like is that, and I tell her, I use you as a tool. If you tell me there's a ghost by the tree, well, let's prove it. Okay, it's up to the investigators to try to get an EVP by the tree or try to get an anomaly in their photograph by that tree. And there was one time where she was walking into the house, and the entities don't seem like they drain any kind of energy from her. She's pretty strong in that department. And she walked into this one house, and she says, I feel something on this chair. I said, okay. Some of my investigators start snapping photos. And sure enough, we get this huge orb on the chair. And she goes, well, it's still here. We take some more pictures. And the orb, now it's a mist on the chair. And another time, we're at a house, and I wasn't getting any kind of EVPs. And she goes, well, I'm very much attracted to this bedroom. So we go into the bedroom. We're sitting on the bed. And she goes, start recording now. I go, why? She goes, it's talking to me. So I start recording, and sure enough, I got something like 5 words. And it's like, whoa, So that's how we use a psychic, and if they can prove themselves to be a real psychic. And that's one of the things I was impressed with her, and one of the things I fell in love with her about is that she did have that ability.
What was it saying to her? What were the words that you recorded?
It was saying something like I'm over here watching you, or something like that.
Nice.
So it seemed like it was like a guy spirit, and it seemed like, I guess, he was attracted to her or something. But he was basically saying he was watching her. Yeah.
Going back to the first part of the program, when you were talking about your wife psychically sensing UFOs. The question that I've often wondered, and I know that Tim Beckley and I have often speculated along these lines, is, I mean, do you think that some UFOs are, rather than being the traditional nuts and bolts physical little gray men from another planet, do you think that there is a paranormal aspect to this phenomena, and that's why a lot of people are able to psychically sense them, or there seem to be some kind of paranormal connection between UFOs and a lot of people?
Well, I think my wife has a paranormal connection to UFOs. I think she has that ability to uncloak UFOs with her mind or whatever. And it's because she told me when I first met her, she goes, I was abducted as a young child. I was abducted by, she calls it the mysterious eye, because when she looked in the sky, it looked like an eye. But she was abducted by this UFO, and somehow she has this connection to UFOs, and she has that ability to uncloak them, or sense them. Because when she pointed out the cube to me, and she pointed out this thing that looked like a rocket ship, I don't believe they were cloaked, but she sensed it, and then she was able to show me. And then the other ones, like I wasn't able to see the three, the one in 410 magazine, the one in B formation. I wasn't able to see that with my naked eye, nor could she see it with her naked eye. But something told her to look towards that part of the sky and snap a photo. And sure enough, there it was. So she does have some kind of psychic connection to UFOs. And all of the paranormal, everything from Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and everything, is somehow all connected, because you're talking about energy. And I think that aliens, they harness energy in all ways, with the ley lines, with volcanoes, because look at how many UFOs are seen near a big volcano, or even going inside a volcano. Why? Because of the energy. They're taking pictures of what looks like a big old black UFO, sucking the energy from the sun and leaving like a big old hole in the sun. So when you're dealing with energy, you're dealing with, ghosts, because they're pure energy. You're dealing with possibly Bigfoot, because you got hunters who claim they shot Bigfoot and turned into sparks, and that's why they can't capture a Bigfoot, because it's interdimensional. It's an energy type creature, and UFOs, ghosts. I think it all connects, and wherever you have strong energy points, like ancient monuments, usually are the center of different energy points, ley lines, and everything else. You have strong paranormal activity.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, considering that, we're energy as well. I mean, our reality is energy. So, obviously there has to be some kind of connection. We're all connected. I think that has a lot to do with synchronicity and events that we all experience. I know that's Tim Beckley's favorite subjects. And it just always makes me think that our reality is it's almost like a web that we're all connected one way or the other, and synchronicities is like a demonstration on how we're connected.
I would say that.
Vibration.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, vibration. Yeah, that's a good.
And
good
you
word for it.
notice so many of us in this field, we experience it all. And the belief is that all of us that are involved in this, it was meant for us to be whatever branch we're in the paranormal community and what we contribute. It was meant for us to do this because we are all vibrating at a higher vibration. I buy into it all because I find that very interesting that so many of us, a lot of ufologists, ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, spiritual warfare people, cryptozoologist guys, they all experience, they're after one thing, but they've all at one time or another have experienced it all. And I find that a very interesting thing that's we all have in common.
So now, do you think that we're kind of our life is kind of preordained? I mean, that we're traveling along a path that's been carved out for us?
I'm going to say for me, I believe so, 100%. Possibly for me, yes. I can't say for you guys, but I know that you guys look at your guys' body of work. Look what you guys have contributed to the paranormal community with all the books and things you've done and experienced. It's there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's a positive. Well, I guess, and I look back at the 200 books that we've put out or something, and I know some people have gotten great enjoyment out of our book just on a books on a literary level, and other people have read our books or purchased them to further whatever their own the path to enlightenment is. That's kind of where the idea of calling our company Inner Light came from, because we all have a light shining within us that we that we can follow through life. I don't know. I suppose we could take a bad turn, along the way somewhere there. I take it, Sean, that you're not a believer in reincarnation.
I'm on the fence with that because I know so many people that I trust and believe are truly gifted as far as having psychic gifts that have done. Either they themselves have had past life regressions, or they can perform them for you and send you through your past life regressions. And some of the stories and testimonies I've had from so many people that I trust and believe that they're at least telling me the truth about what they feel they've experienced. That, I'm not going to say it's not possible. I'm going to say that I'm on the fence with it. And doesn't it sort of kind of make sense, though, that is what's happening over and over and again to a lot of us?
Well, you know what it is? Well, I'll tell you what reincarnation is. Reincarnation is from the ages 1 to 8. Usually children have psychic abilities. That's why they say they have an imaginary friend. So you hear that story all the time. And when a child is born upon the world, in the atmosphere is the energy of deceased people. And this energy contains all the knowledge, everything they experienced, everything they saw, and it's contained in this energy of a deceased person, their soul, their aura. And it's floating around, and some children are in tune. They got their little psychic antennas out, and they're born upon the world, and they download the information from the energy, from the soul. And all of a sudden, hey, I'm John Smith, and I was born in 1873, and I was a blacksmith. Okay, they have now gained this information from a deceased person, their soul, because energy lives forever. And I believe that reincarnation, it's not that they're actually that person. They just simply, just like a computer, download the information, and now they have the knowledge of that person who died.
Is that good or bad?
No, it's not bad at all. And some people are just not into it. They may download the information, and they may start having habits like biting their fingernails. Well, that biting their fingernails is probably because they downloaded some information from a deceased person who bit their fingernails. And so they gain these habits, and they just don't realize it. Some people are a little bit more in tune to it, and they're able to say, okay, I was born in this town, I lived with this family, and it's all the information that was processed because they downloaded the energy, the data from a deceased person. They obtained that information from their soul.
You know, in our book, on the matrix control system of Philip K. Dick, he talks about how he had Tim, like total recall of not a past life, but a life that he was living in another reality at the same time he was living as Philip K. Dick in California. But he remembered explicitly he said that this was a life as was it a Roman soldier?
Something like that.
During the time of Christ. But it turned out he knew the language that was spoken at the time, as if he was actually living there, and he knew all the details of living in that period, even though he was not a history buff per se. He was a science fiction writer. But there's actually a name for that, Tim, where you have a total recall about a particular subject, without really having experienced it.
Yeah, I can't remember. All I can think of now is eidetic memory, but that's from your own experiences that you can't forget.
Yeah. Well, I think didn't Richard Shaver had a name for that? Isn't like a root memory or racial memory?
Yeah, racial memory is what Shaver said, and he based that on similarities between the current modern languages and then the antediluvian languages. Everything that we now use as language has a root cause that went back way beyond what we know as accepted history.
Well, he was quite a character, to say the least. I know I had quite a bit of correspondence with him back when he was still. I think he passed away in the 1970s. And of course, you've written a book about what is it called, The Reality of the Subterranean World?
Yes.
And we've published reprinted some of the original Hidden World. There were 16 volumes in the series. I think we had 15 of them, but one of the printers disappeared, not only with some of our money, but with also the masters to the book.
Hey, so this is going to blow you away. How about if I told you the Library of Alexandria still exists?
Where can we find it?
Okay, here it is. Okay, check this out. Okay, as the people were writing on their scrolls and depositing their stories in the Library of Alexandria, they had to see what they were writing. So light was reflecting off that scroll. The light bounced up, and it exists in our atmosphere. And let's say there's aliens on the other side of the galaxy, and they have this high-powered telescope, and they're directing this telescope to Earth. And they have, let's say, the power to magnify what is going on Earth. Well, they're seeing the light in the past. So they're possibly seeing they're seeing a Roman gladiator fighting in combat in the Roman days. They're seeing the past. They're seeing the light from the past on Earth. So everything that was written in the Library of Alexandria exists in light form, and it's still traveling in space because they had to have light to write on the scroll. So the light had to bounce off the scroll, and it bounced into the atmosphere, and it lives on forever. And the light that's being generated on the other side of the galaxy is everything that happened on Earth in the past. And if aliens were looking at the world from the other side of the galaxy, they would be seeing things, they would be seeing London, England, when Jack the Ripper was walking around. So it exists in life form.
Yeah, well, that makes sense because, I mean, if you go outside and look at the stars, you're looking into the past because it's taken, millions of years for that starlight to reach us. And, right now we have to give up our starlight for our next round of breaks. So when we come back, we'll continue this conversation on exploring the bizarre.
Now back to exploring the bizarre with two of the most electrifying researchers in the paranormal, your hosts, Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz.
All right, here we are at the last segment of the program, and tonight we're talking with Reverend Shawn Whittington and Paul Dale Roberts. See, I've gone and given you an extra degree there.
There you go.
Yeah, Dr. Reverend. I have a question for you, Reverend Shawn, and
okay.
This is from Dave in the UK, and Paul, after Shawn answers this question, then you can chime in and give your opinion to it as well. Now, Dave wants to know, he said that he was watching an episode of Paranormal Witness, and this show, I guess, said that possessions in America are on the rise. And Dave wants to know, could this have anything to do with the amount of ghost hunting programs on TV where, like a group of ghost hunters or teenagers go into abandoned buildings to find ghosts, and, people thinking that they should try it for themselves and go in blind with nothing protecting them from evil spirits. What do you think?
Okay, well, I'm gonna hit you right between the eyes with it. Are you ready?
All right, go for it.
Possibly, but
right between the eyes. Okay.
This is what I believe. I'm going to try not to get too preachy here.
No, go for it.
But this is what I believe. We are living in hell. God gave Earth to Satan and all the fallen angels. So we are actually in their world. What God also did, because he loves us so much, was he put a powerful hedge of protection around us. And you can envision it as an actual, hedge, like a plant, bush, tree, or you can envision it like a wall, a brick wall, let's say, with mortar in between it, old bricks. And it's always constantly being chipped away at by the evil, which is completely surrounding all of us and on the other side of this hedge of protection, spiritual hedge of protection from us. Now, it's been so chewed away and chipped away and deteriorated away, and so much of the darkness has seeped through like a cancer into our side that is the reason why there is so much evil in the world and evil going on and men doing evil against one another. And that's why there's groups out there that people don't know about with extremely devout religious people that are in constant prayer around the clock to push the darkness back. And there's a war coming. We know how it ends. We know we win, but there's going to be a lot of souls lost in the process. So there's another old saying, be careful what you wish for, and, be careful what you do when you go out there. A lot of these, like I said, a lot of my clients are paranormal investigators, and they're not trained, and they go places where they shouldn't, and they do things that they shouldn't, and they have these things attach themselves to them, and then they don't know how to get unattached from these disgusting creatures, and then they need to go find help. So could it be, I believe all these shows are influenced by something beyond us, because they seem to be everywhere. I'm not a big fan of them. I don't watch the paranormal reality TV shows. But my take is it's much bigger than that. And yes, exorcisms are on the rise. And like I said, guys, I deal with it every day. So all I can do is speak from my experience. But before we move on to either one of you that want to say anything about it, I just want everybody that just heard me say that, just work on your humility, work on your love for your fellow man, turning the other cheek. I know it's hard. It's hard for me too. But just try to be a better person tomorrow than you were today, and so on and so on. And let's just try to all together, whatever God it is you pray to, let's all start praying to push this darkness back, because it's all around us, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. But we have to draw our line in the sand and make a fight.
All right, excellent. Paul, do you have anything you want to say on this?
Well, one thing is paranormal TV. I'm sorry, reality TV is not reality. And I've done a lot of documentaries. From My Ghost Story, Penn and Teller's, Bull. I can't say the other part of the word because we're on radio. But what I've experienced, let's say, with reality TV is like with My Ghost Story on the biography channel. I did 3 episodes, and and I would tell the story, and they go, "Well, Paul, can you spice it up? Can you say that the couple were laying in bed and then the entity came through the window?" Well, that's not how it happened. Paul, just say it. And so a lot of these people, they watch TV, and a lot of these reality shows, like let's say Ghost Adventures, they're getting evidence all the time. Well, it doesn't happen that way. I've been over on 1,000 investigations, over 1,000 investigations, and when we go in there, a lot of times we're bored to death because we're not getting any evidence, and a lot of times the entities in the house are from the imaginations of the occupants. They're imagining these things are happening. Paul, take a look at the carpet because there's a demon face on the carpet. I don't see a demon face, but I do see where your dog pooped on the carpet, and so it's just, I don't know. And then these kids, they watch these shows, they become these amateur ghost hunters, and they go into the cemetery and they try to provoke the spirits. And I heard one case where this kid went into a cemetery and kicked over a tombstone, and then all of a sudden he had an attachment. The ghost followed him home, very upset because he kicked over his tombstone and was haunting him at his house. So something like that could be real. I would say, like, if I go on 10 investigations, about 3 of them, there's some type of paranormal activity. Otherwise, there's really nothing. And the kids, when they're watching these shows, they're just so excited because, Zach Baggins is getting all this evidence. So they're going out and investigating all these crazy things and doing all kinds of stuff and provoking all kinds of spirits. And they wind up getting themselves in trouble. So, and as for evil, good and evil, well, there's good and evil throughout the whole universe. So you're going to always have people harboring that evil. And one of the things that I do, I was born and raised a Catholic, is when a person has an attachment, I actually ask them, do you want a full submersion baptism? And what I do is I baptize them right in their bathtub, and I'm actually successful because they tell me, Paul, I don't have an attachment anymore. I don't know if it's like a placebo type pill or something where they actually believe it works. I believe it works. I call upon angels. I really have a strong belief in angels. I believe that angels watch over us and protect us. and I am very powerful in my prayers. I ask for angels to please assist me and help me, and I give them a full submersion baptism, and the attachment is gone. When I bless a home, I have the occupants telling me, Paul, there's no more entities. I just got contacted by Ghost Adventures because they read one of my blog stories on the Selby investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they contacted the occupant and they said, hey, is there anything going on in your house after Paul blessed it? And they said, no. They said, there's nothing going on in our house. And then they said, well, we're not interested in the story anymore, because they were going to actually send Zach over there. And they go, wait a minute. They actually wanted Zach to come because the girl that lives in the house was a Zach fan. And I said, wow. And I said, so when I blessed your house, it's gone, huh? She goes, yeah. So I don't know. When I started blessing homes and doing baptisms, I wasn't really sure of myself, but I do have a strong belief in angels, and I believe that angels listen to me, the power of prayer, and they come in and they help me. So.
When you talk about angels now, it seems to me from what I've read in the Bible, I'm not too sure if I'd want to be calling on angels, because I mean they always seem to be the ones that are doing God's dirty work. I mean, they're the ones that come down and kick ass.
And I believe that there's angels that are evil, like your fallen angels,
mm-hmm.
and there's angels who are actually looking out for the welfare of mankind. They're trying to make things happen that are good. So I believe there's good angels and bad angels.
Reverend Shawn, I recently...
That's Dr. Reverend Shawn.
Dr. Reverend Shawn. You're going to have that printed up now. Have a certificate with that on there.
I'll get some T-shirts made up. Instead of wearing the rosary, I'll have a stethoscope.
We've had several ideas for T-shirts on this show tonight, so I mean I'm going to have to write these down and start making some money. A lot of these, especially poltergeist cases, where the situation gets so bad that a family will call in, say, like a priest or a minister or whatever, to come in and bless the house, throw some holy water around or whatever, and most of the time it doesn't do any good. In fact, it seems to make things worse. The poltergeist, it almost, gets honked off and doubles down on the things that it's doing. Now, have you had experiences along these lines, or is this a situation where we're talking about a different type of entity rather than, say, like a demonic entity, or you're dealing with like, say, a priest or a minister who really has no idea what they're doing and just comes in and does just kind of like goes through the motions, but doesn't have that faith or belief system behind them to really do the job?
Well, I believe I'm on the fence with the whole poltergeist thing. The term poltergeist is being thrown around as much as the term demon. I think the poltergeist can be many different things. A very malevolent entity. It could be a demon. It could be, a telekinesis being caused by, a mentally disturbed person in the family, or the daughter just going into puberty, or the son just going into puberty, and they're, they've all got some other issues, and it's lashing out that way. Reverends that show up and want to do a lot of fire and brimstone, religious provocation type stuff, definitely, in my experience, make things worse. But after me seeing so many clients not want to allow me to help them and do what I need from them, the faith thing that you mentioned is more them not having it. than the religious person that's there trying to help them. So that's where the problem comes in. They need to be totally on board with why you're there and what needs to be done to give them their house and their life and their situation, bring some closure to this, get whatever this thing is to move on. And I'm sorry to say, more times than not, when I get there and really, get to the bottom of what's there and start telling these people what I need from them and what they need to do, lots of times people aren't ready. They either haven't hit rock bottom yet, or I don't know what holds them back, or if they're being influenced by the entity to not be on board. They were able to reach out for help, and now that I'm there to help, they're not willing to do what I need them to do to get the help. So I have to cut many clients, cut them loose. And that, like I said, that's the most heartbreaking thing for me in what I do. So the faith thing has to come. My first thing, I'm on board with everything Paul said. I think Paul is a blessed individual, and I think he's going to do some great things and contribute some great things in his lifetime in this field. But yeah, most people, I ask them first off, what religious belief system do you have in place? And I will refer them first to their church to talk to their pastors and their ministers. And if they don't have one in place, then I see what I can do to help them put one in place. And if I can't, like I said, if I'm just up against a brick wall, then there's really nothing I can do.
Yeah, and Reverend, in some of my situations, the people are Buddha, they're Hindu, or Native American Indian. I did an investigation over Covelo, was on Indian territory there. And when that happens, because I'm a Catholic, I do it my way. What I try to do is I find a person of Hindu belief, and I have them come in with me to do a type of cleansing in their belief system. So that's what I do. I respect whatever they want to believe in. I respect it. Just like my wife, she's pagan. I'm a Catholic, but she respects my beliefs, and I respect her beliefs. And she'll do. And some of our cases are with pagans. We just had one recently, and she came in there and did a metaphysical type cleansing. So, more power to them, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if it works, it works. And as for the poltergeist thing, I had a case where their child was autistic, and it seemed like he was projecting the energy to knock over plates off the shelves or moving a keychain across the kitchen table. So the poltergeist, I don't really believe there was a ghost there or a demon or anything else, but it seemed like that child had the ability to move objects and open up cabinets and stuff like that with his mind. So I believe that was the poltergeist activity in that house.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons that I always like to ask that particular question is that I have observed a number of times, people who will have poltergeist activity in their house that doesn't really at that point really has exhibited any kind of personality, but then somebody will come in and say, oh, this isn't a poltergeist. This is a demon, or an evil spirit. And then all of a sudden, the activity starts taking on that guise, like it was listening. I mean,
Go ahead.
There's
a real. I'm sorry, but there's a real famous case. There's a real famous case. The guy, the author who wrote The Shadow. I can't think of his name right now, but the author of The Shadow, and this is a very documented case. but his friends would go to his house and see a ghost or whatever that looked like his character, the shadow. And a lot of parapsychologists, they theorize that he was thinking so much of his character, the shadow, that he actually made it manifest. And like the Krampus case that I was talking about during our break, I think that the girl who was playing with the Ouija board, she may have manifested with her mind the Krampus. Even though it's a fictional character, she was thinking about it so hard, she actually made the character come to life through her mind, through energy. So, and the guy who wrote The Shadow, his character was haunting his home. So that was mind blown.
Well, Tim, when you mentioned that, the first thing I thought of was these non-human entities that are they manifest from the environment, and something so terrible happened at a particular location that this non-human entity manifests from that environment, and they will lie in wait, and they mimic, they take on very suggestively, just like that. So that's exactly what hit me like a bolt of lightning when you talked about that particular situation. Was I'm running into a lot more of cases where there's these non-human entities that never really inhabited a body or were alive at any time, and they're not demons and they're not ghosts.
Yeah.
It's just, that's a pretty incredible situation too. Trying to battle those.
Go ahead.
What I've also too seen is that evil attracts evil. So, like, we had this one house that had a double murder there, and as soon as you walked in there, the couple that lived there were constantly getting into arguments and stuff. And when you walk into the house, you can feel the negative energy. And they thought a demon was in the house. Well, I kind of believe there was a demon in the house too, because when you have a double murder in the house, the couple is constantly fighting and arguing. The police have been over there for domestic abuse and everything else. And you got this negative atmosphere in that house. Demons are attracted to that. So, of course, you're going to have something evil in that house because evil took place in that house. So and there was stuff that was happening there. We actually got EVPs, and it was a very bad house.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we are almost out of time, so I want to give you a chance to let our listeners know where they can find out more about you. So, Dr. Reverend Shawn, you go first.
I have a website, ghost-b-gone.biz, and I also have a ghostbegone.biz, one word, Facebook page, and I'm also the host of Vegas Supernatural, which is on every Monday night right here on KCORradio.com. And I try to have as many interesting, passionate people from all branches of the paranormal community on every Monday night, and just have a no-holds-barred, open conversation of just about whatever we want to talk about. And it could be anything. It doesn't always paranormal stuff, but I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Tim. Paul, pleasure to meet you, sir. I'll add you to the prayer list.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, I'll add you to the prayer list, buddy, you and your wife. And like I said before, all the listeners, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and just work on the
Merry
love.
Christmas, too.
Okay, and Paul, real quick, where can they find out more about you?
Well, they can just simply Google my name, Paul Dale Roberts. Paul Dale Roberts, or go to my website, www.jasmaonline, and they'll see a lot of my stories, the videos, the recordings. Everything's posted right on that blog site.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been an excellent show tonight. I appreciate you both being on with me tonight on Exploring the Bizarre. So tune in next week at this time for another fascinating program. Good night, all.
You've been listening to Exploring the Bizarre with hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz. They're taking back the night by jetting non-stop across the cosmos in search of the truly bizarre and totally unexplained, with you as their co-pilot. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. For more information on exploring the bizarre and hosts Timothy Beckley and Tim Swartz, check out their KCOR Digital Radio Network page. Follow their YouTube channel at MRUFO 1100. Exploring the bizarre.